Hello and welcome everybody, and thank you guys for joining me again. My name is Wilkie and I'm here with, for now, the last of my beginner guide series part for Shadow Arena. You may be asking yourself, why? The main reason being is the developers are very frequent and there are a lot of buffs, nerfs, balances and fixes happening. So the game is constantly changing and evolving, so especially guides for Badal example or hero specific things are changed around very often and very frequently. So I'm a little bit hesitant to put out guides because in a week or two, the guides may or may not be outdated again. So for now, we're going to concentrate on content that is probably going to be more stable. And today's topic is going to be phases of a round, or generally how I structure each match, and a few things along the way. So generally for me, there are three phases or three periods. The early phase, or the grace period, which lasts from the start until the 4th minute mark. Then 4th minute to like 9-10ish minutes is for me the mid game, and anything above 10 minutes counts for as late game for me. Let's start right off the bat with the early game or the grace period. If you have played the game, you probably already know a few things, but generally the biggest thing about this phase or the grace period is you have respawn enabled. So even if you die or if you kill somebody, it doesn't matter if it's a bot or a player, they will respawn until the 4-minute mark. So why would you kill players then? The main reason is obviously you get XP and a lot of that. Scoring a kill early in the game will net you all 4 skills. So you start off with 1 ability, and if you manage to get 1 kill early on in the game, you can unlock all 4 abilities. This is huge, especially if you jump into a contested area where there might be people around. This is definitely a very vital thing to pick up. Also, you're kind of racking up your kill count, but this is really just more of a flex thing or a visual thing. It doesn't really have any benefit towards gameplay itself. Other than that, the grace period is probably most overlooked by a lot of people, especially new players. You're not supposed to get like 8 kills out of grace period. Honestly, if I get 2 kills in grace period, I'm more than happy. If I really just want 1 early kill so I get the skills unlocked, but grace period is there to farm gear. You will want to have equipment once you leave the grace period, because once the gloves are off, once the 4-minute mark passes, you're in for it. And if you get killed now, there's no more respawning, so you're out of the game for good. So what I generally try, or what my goal is for the first 4 minutes, get to blue gear. If you have green gear by the end of the grace period, I'll talk about this in the mid-game section, but generally anything that isn't blue gear, so where your name at the bottom of the screen doesn't turn blue, I would highly suggest trying to get a little bit more gear. Though there are multiple ways to do this. There is no guaranteed right or wrong way. You have, for example, just killing trash mobs, trying to get suspicious cauldrons for mob grouping, go to shadow jump gates because of the specters. They now only drop blue, but they can still drop yellow and red at times, so it's still a very decent source. Also, they give a lot of XP. Also, you have the Shed Lord. So generally what I do during the first 2 minutes is I look for people or bots around. If I get the kill, then good. If not, I'm just gonna farm mobs. I'm assessing the map and trying to position myself somewhere near a jump gate in case maybe there's a Shadow Lord that's like 400 meters away, but I'd have a jump gate nearby. I can easily go there. The first Shadow Lord always spawns at the 2-minute mark. So I guess you can divide the grace period into like these 2 sections, like before 2 minute and post 2 minute. I will always try to go to that Shadow Lord as long as it's within reasonable range. Reasonable range for me is like 200 meters of walking, or a jump gate puts you around about 300 meters forward, so anything that's like 100 meters to a jump gate and then another 100 meters from there is totally fine. Anything above that I would not go, because you're spending a lot of time trying to get there. If you're lucky, the Shadow Lord is still there, but if you're not lucky, somebody else killed it, or even worse, somebody has better gear because he spawned nearby maybe, or killed the Shadow Lord, maybe picked up a red weapon, and they will beat you up. So keep an eye on that, but I think the Shadow Lord is very important. Just don't go overboard. If you see like the Shadow Lord spawn and it shows at the top radar like 700 meters, don't go for it. At least I wouldn't do it. So this is really all that I can give you in terms of grace period early game. TLDR would be get a kill or 2, then try to get to blue gear. And the last tip I want to give you, don't burn your potion. There's absolutely no shame dying in the grace period. I had multiple games where I died early and I still came out victorious. There's nothing worse than coming out of grace period and having 0 or 1 potion. Because now the gloves are off, now you have to fight for real, and if you get killed now because of an accident or you don't have potions, you're out of the game. This is terrible. Rather get yourself killed in grace period than to burn all your potions, because you only start out with a few potions, and burning those very early in the game, you will struggle taking encounters, you will play more carefully, you will have to be more defensive. It all comes with a lot of caveats for maybe getting that 1 kill in grace period. It's not worth it, because if you burn all of your resources and you end up with shitty gear and no potions, you're gonna have a very hard time. The mid game. So, coming out of the grace period, as I said, now the gloves are off, kills are kills. It's pretty much all about kills. Once the 4-minute mag passes, I usually try to flock to hotspots. That means Shadow Lords, Ancient Relic Fragments, or trying to assess maybe where people drop so I can get some kills. There's no faster way after the 4-minute mark to get gear than to kill other bots and players, because they also captured others and collected some gear. Definitely the fastest way. Also, I play this game for PvP, so I naturally try to look for kills. I guess there's one thing, or one question you have to answer. After the 4-minute mark, do you have blue gear? Then you can try and hunt people down. If you still have green gear, I highly recommend trying to at least get to blue gear, so you have a better time facing others, because there's nothing worse than having a gear difference and getting killed because you have shitty gear and the enemy has better gear. RNG is always a factor, but with blue gear after 4 minutes, you can at least safely try and take the engage. And if you see like the enemy has like a yellow name and you don't deal any damage at all, just run away. Alright, the other thing I want to give you for the mid game really is try to farm as much as you can. Try to get as many kills as you can, be mindful of your cooldowns, and try to go to all Shadow Lords and everything like that. So, if you have managed to survive 9 to 10 minutes, you're pretty much nearing what I'd call the late game / end game phase. By now, you should really have yellow gear. If you're running around, in blue gear, or even worse, sometimes people end up with green gear or a green name in after 10 minutes, boy, you're gonna have a very hard time taking real encounters. If you actually, for whatever reason, end up having green or blue gear in the late game phase, I highly suggest to be very specific about the fights you pick. Try to sneak up onto people that are fighting, like 1v1, and try to third party. I know some people may be like, oh, you're condoning or you're enforcing third party. It's just the thing, really. If you don't have the gear to fight with people up toe to toe, you gotta be strategic about the engages, really. And vulturing is very effective in the game, so it's a very viable tactic, and pretty much everybody does it. I mean, I'm guilty of it. Pretty much every pro player is guilty of it. There may be some people that are like, oh, I never third party, but honestly, there's nothing wrong with it. That's just how RBR works. If somebody's fighting, you can bump in. So I highly suggest you should do that. If you have yellow gear and you're content with your skills, then really try to make sure you have some potions. I usually want to have anything above 8 potions I think is really nice. Anything below that, you have to be a little bit stingy. As you can see, a potion heals 1500 HP with a little bit of time. But generally having 8 potions means you can usually, with all the HP recovery in between, heal up twice to max HP. Not on paper, but by the time the potions go in and stuff. So having that, obviously the more the merrier. Generally though, this is what I like to feel safely and to know that I can take the encounters. Other things that are very important for the last circle is, if you have stun traps, make sure you use them. Try to check where the circle is going, then hide around a tree, a rock, or a bush, plant it. Also, remember where you planted it, because a random stun trap may be just it may be the difference between victory and defeat if you have a stun trap and the right place. It's a super good item. You just have to be mindful about it and make sure you know that it's there and that you can capitalize on it. Another thing, obviously sandwiches got buffed, so they aren't as bad anymore as they used to be. Elixir of Vigilance, the blue potion that lets you see enemies, is also very good to have in the later phases, so you can see people around rocks or in clouded areas or Harus that are invisible. Can be seen with that as well. And the last thing that I want to give you guys on the way is be careful or check the map for altars. Because more often than not, there may be an altar or maybe like an altar nearby the fog zone. And if it's a latent altar, there's a very high possibility that some players that are aware of that may get the Shadowlord buff and wait until the very last circle to run there, get the latent, and come back. If you don't have a rock or a tree or something you can hide behind, latent in the very late stages of the game is incredibly powerful. So keep your eyes on that. And if you see somebody heading towards an altar and you see that it's the latent altar, try to get in there, either kill them while they're at there or steal their latent at best. Because having to deal with a latent in like a flat area where there's nothing you can hide, there's nothing you can do really. That's pretty much it. As I said, a few things here and there. TLDR, early game grace period, try to get a kill or two, farm your gear until you're blue. If you have that done, try to get more gear. Obviously, if you have blue gear after like 1 minute, don't just go and kill people. Just go and keep on farming. After the mid game or after the grace period in mid game, try to get as many kills as you can, because now you can start eliminating the competition and get yourself ahead. And last but not least, manage your resources, be wary of your cooldowns. If you don't have Q and E up and you maybe have only blue gear like 8 minutes in, be very wary about any encounters, because it may be the last one you have in this game. So check, maybe assess the enemy. If you have ranged ability, just poke them so you can see the name. If they have a green name, go ahead. If they have a yellow name, maybe they have a buff or two going. Be very careful about this. Anyways, this is all for the phases and rounds beginner's guide series for Shadow Arena. As usual, you can catch me live on Twitch when I'm streaming. Also more videos on YouTube, and I have a Discord server running. If you have any questions, feel free to go there. I will very happily answer anything else there. If that was helpful, let me know in the comments. As usual, if there's anything that may be confusing or maybe something I didn't really explain that well, let me know as well, and I will happily get back to you. That's it for now. Have a good one, enjoy your stay in Shadow Arena, and I will see you guys next time.